Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Space Club Career Chats. Hello to all the students watching out there, whether you're joining me live or watching this later. We are excited to have you running all the Space Club missions. I know there's several schools that are joining us on the mission to Mars, and we are now in week 2. And then we have some schools that are doing the mission to Moon as well. So it's just great to have everybody joining us. All right, so Space Club, you can see all the people that are involved. We are part of the New Worlds Await You program that's brought to you through NASA and the WEX Foundation and Southwest Research, who is actually one of our guest speakers today. So Yong-Li McFarland is who we're going to talk with for Space Club Career Chats. Most of you have probably seen her bio. She also shared this nice video about some of the work that she's doing. So her current job is she's a senior research scientist at Southwest Research Institute. Her background, her education background is a Bachelors of Science in Chemistry from Carnegie Mellon University, and she also stayed abroad at City University of Hong Kong. Let me bring her on. Welcome. How are you doing, Yong-Li?
Hello, Natasha. It's great to be here with you.
So for students that are not familiar with Southwest Research Institute, where are you located?
We are located in San Antonio, Texas.
Awesome. And the weather in Texas has been crazy. So like now it's freezing cold and it was like hot 2 days ago, right?
Yeah, I cannot believe the huge change, and I didn't believe the meteorologist when they said it was going to be in the high 30s today.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, we are glad to have you, and students have been submitting all sorts of questions. So I'm ready to just dive in to what they were asking. So we're going to start first with your background, your pathway to STEM, centered around why you chose this field of chemistry. So let me start with this one. What made you get your bachelor's degree in chemistry from Team Astronomicals in Faith West Academy in Texas?
Thank you. So that's a really good question. I have a picture here of my mom and my 2 boys because my mom is the reason that I wanted to study chemistry. She's a chemist herself and came to the U.S. to get her master's degree and PhD in chemistry, and always found it really important for me to learn how chemistry is involved in all of our lives. So some of the other things that she told me, and kind of reason that I actually listened to her and thought that was a good idea, was she told me that chemistry is involved with a lot of industries. So they are used to make medicines in the pharmaceutical industry. They're used to make products in the personal care. So we're talking about like laundry detergents, toilet paper, sprays that you might use, and also across like foods. So you don't really want to think about it too much, but there's food science and food chemistry. And I thought it would be kind of cool if I could dabble in, creating foods and how to make them better. But I ultimately decided that I wanted to go into cosmetics. I thought it was really cool that I could go and make products like the mascaras or lipsticks or all that types of interesting products. So for me, thinking chemistry, it was really about, understanding how important chemistry is in the world and that I can make a difference. And also the fact that my mom taught me how hard it is, but it's also really useful.
So your advice here is to listen to your mom because sometimes she has good advice.
Exactly.
All right. And you kind of answered this, but were you involved in a lot of STEM as a child? And I imagine you were. So this is from Space Lava Dolphins, Calvary Christian School in Illinois.
So that is true. I found out pretty early that I did not like hate science, and I was actually pretty good at it. And I know not every student likes chemistry, math, physics, but I found that because I was good at it, I tended to be more involved. So I remember in middle school, high school, we do science fair, and I would participate all the time, try different things with my mom. And just getting involved with learning how to use the scientific method to think, do some experiments, and just understand how things work. So definitely STEM was part of my life. More so probably going into high school, realizing, life is a little bit more than just reading books and having fun. So.
Well, we got a lot of questions about what you do, and you brought up cosmetics and mascara, and that was a ton of questions. But I know that was like a previous project. So let's first focus on what you do now. So, what is your job about?
So my job as a senior research scientist is to help my clients learn about the lubricants properties. So we actually test these lubricants. So they kind of look like a honey, but maybe a little bit thinner. And what we want to find out is, are they going to burn? Are they going to oxidize and going to have lots of particles in them after a short time of use? Are they going to corrode some of the metal surfaces that they are involved in? And lubricants, if you're not familiar with, they are used in vehicles. So they're in cars, trucks, planes, trains. All types of vehicles need the lubricants to help kind of run all of the engines and the power systems. So think of like if you're a person, we have blood to help us clean our systems. The lubricant is really the blood of our vehicles.
Ooh.
So it's in a lot of surfaces, a lot of places, and my job is to learn about the lubricant properties and make sure that they are meeting the requirements. So when you're riding in the car or in the plane, that there are no issues. Some of the other things I get to do with my job is also go to conferences. So we work with different clients and we want to make sure that the standards that we're using are all, they all make sense and that they are useful for our clients. So I'll go to conferences and make sure that what the testing procedures are correct, make sure that they fit the needs. And just also understand how we can improve those test methods so that they're more useful.
And so, following with that, what skills have you learned during your research career from Inevitable Stargazers, Christ the Teacher School in New Jersey?
So I've learned a lot about problem solving. A lot of the time we don't know what's going on in systems. So instead of trying to make up things or try every type of solution, we're going to do some other problem solving skills, collaborate with other colleagues that I have and understand what's going on in the situation, trying to find a few options to help solve the problem. Definitely also in my career, I've learned how to communicate. I know that's not normally something you think about when you're talking about research, but it's so important when you're communicating and working with different people, different backgrounds, to learn how to speak as well as listen. That has been very key because a lot of the times the problems come up when you're not communicating. So
Mm.
someone heard something, thought this was going to happen, and then realized that's not what happened. It all goes back to that communication. So for me, it was a little bit more some of the people softer skills that I learned through research that I feel are so important for myself.
And usually, when you think of chemist, you imagine somebody in a white lab coat sitting by themselves over like beakers and pouring liquids and never talking to people. So I'm glad you bring that up because obviously, whatever work you're doing in the lab has to be communicated out to other people. So when say you're working on a project, how many other people are involved, just on
So
average?
yeah, I work on probably an average of like 5 or 6 people that I have to interact with. So they go from people who are helping me schedule the tests to the clients that I need to communicate with, to other team members to find out, hey, what happened on this test? Did it get changed? Did something did it get updated? So not everyone is going to have a chemistry degree. Some are going to have more skills and some are more experienced and some have just a high school degree. So definitely a lot of people from different levels are the people that I work with here at Southwest.
Interesting. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about some of the projects. Um, we talked about lubricants, so let me start there. So that's your current job. So what is in the lubricants you make? Explode Pluto, Anthony Acres in Wisconsin.
So with the basic lubricant, as I described, it's kind of like a honey, maybe a little bit thinner, not as thick. What you're going to find is that it's got a base oil, which is some type of petroleum product, mineral oil, technical terms. And then they're going to have some additives. So those additives are smaller quantities, maybe like 1 to 5%. And those are the items that are going to make the final lubricant perform better. So it's going to be not corrode, it's going to last longer, it's going to be more stable, prevent certain types of long-term degradation. So the lubricants are actually not made here. I do want to be clear that we don't actually do any of the development of the lubricants. We just test them as an independent lab for that type of work. I know some other groups within Southwest develop products, but we are really the testing area. And so while we have a general understanding of what's in the lubricants, I don't know the percentages, I don't know the specific chemicals that go in. That's all information that our clients know better.
Okay, so you're getting like a sample of the lubricant and you're making sure that it's performing to some kind of criteria or standards. Okay,
Exactly.
interesting. Um, okay, so let's answer this question. What encourages you to continue your job? And answer that how you want. Stardust Crusaders from Face Middle School in Nevada.
So I think for me, it's about the people. I get to work with a lot of great people, interesting people that have been helpful, and they just have their own stories about what they're interested in and how they help me. The fact that we have a lot of standards already and what I work on is kind of like the baseline. And then the people, they're the ones who have creative ideas to help make those standards better. So when I think of wanting to continue my job and how I can improve, I think of the people that I'm around. I'm thinking, well, I have these standards, and really, ultimately, these standards make the lubricants better, which make our the people who use those lubricants feel safer, more productive.
Yeah, that's so interesting because whenever I was watching that video about the standards, it's such like a vague thing, right? Like standards, but being able to like humanize it, and it's the standards are what improve the performance, so our car runs better, or like you mentioned, the airplanes and trains, and so there's a purpose to all of that, and so it's not just you in a lab kind of doing things. Like there is a real outcome, which is impacting all of us.
Yes, for sure. I often also get similar questions like, which one's the best lubricant? What should I use in my car? And I say, actually go to your car manual and it should tell you which oil should be used, because we've done all the testing to tell you which is most suitable for your vehicle. So it's definitely, you can see the impact of my work like every day when I drive my car, or when I step into the airport with all my masks and all the gear to make sure that that airplane is safe for us to use. Me and my colleagues, we work on a lot of the products that are in those planes and cars, and it's really good to know that we're making a difference.
And it seems like you can't just have one lubricant for everything, right? It has to be specialized. Like you said, your car's manufacturer says this is what you should use. And I'm trying to think of an analogy like, you might need different shampoo products for depending on your hair texture, right? So maybe that's like a way to think of the lubricants, right? They have to have the certain formula for that specific vehicle. Is that correct?
Right. So let me use a different analogy. So mascara. For those of you who are not familiar with mascara, it's a black sticky substance that a lot of women put on their lashes,
Mhm.
and it makes their lashes look longer, fuller, more pretty. And the reason I think of this analogy is that you think of really the product as a mascara, which is the black goo, I'll call it, but it's actually the brush that's very key to make sure that the product is applied well on your lashes. So just like lubricants, you're not always going to have the perfect fit. In mascara, it's the brush with the lubricant, the brush with the mascara that makes the good product. With the lubricants, it's the vehicle and the metal parts as well as the lubricant that makes it work well.
Hmm.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Or did I just confuse myself?
No, that's great. And that segues into what we're going to talk about next, which you kind of teased that for the students that you used to work in cosmetics. And that's what Marpalo from Redland Christian Academy in Florida wants to know. What was your job in cosmetics? What did you do?
So when you had described the typical chemist with their white lab coat, and I have a blue one, as you see in the picture, I actually did work in the lab and create these mascara formulations. So the picture there is one of the products, not necessarily that one, but that brand that I got to work on when I was making mascara, making cosmetics. And there's quite a slew of ingredients that you might imagine that goes into making mascara, but I would combine all the different raw ingredients. So you have some certain waxes, certain emulsifiers, and colorants and other types of chemicals that go into a container. And then we blend it, we heat it, and then we have to test it. So my job as a formulation chemist was quite hard. You had to do everything. You had to make the product, you had to test it, you had to make sure that it's going to work with the brush, you had to then make sure you had all the paperwork so that it's safe, doesn't
Hmm.
grow any microorganisms or anything like that.
Right.
And so when I actually did make the cosmetics, I obviously had a team. I was not the only one there to produce the formulations, but I also had people in the packaging group, which helps with the brushes, or the manufacturing team that would help to create the bigger batches of the formulations that I would make. So I would make them on a small scale, they would make them bigger, and then we have a production plant that would make them on a large scale so that we could sell it to wherever we need to.
Yeah, that's really cool to think when you go into a drugstore and like all the makeup is there, thinking about all the behind the scenes that had to happen for that product to get on the shelf. And so if there's any students out there watching that are interested in cosmetics or all the other products that you mentioned on that first slide, maybe chemistry is a career path to consider.
Definitely.
All right, so now we're going to transition to some life outside of your job. So you shared some great photos here. I want to ask you this question from the extraterrestrials in Florida. Where have you traveled to, and what places would you have students consider going to?
So I will say I love going to Asia. So as you've seen, I've been to China. I was actually born there and myself and grew up in China until I was 6 and then came to the United States. And I still love going back to China and visiting my family there, but also there's so many countries in Asia that are really fun. Some places will speak English, so it's a lot easier to get to. But there are destinations like in Thailand, I would suggest. They have some really great islands, beach, if you like that type of resort feel. But they also have great eating. I'm a big eater. I shared some of my photos. I love to eat and try different foods. So whenever I get to travel, I'm always checking out the local restaurants to make sure I get to eat what they get to eat. Some other areas that I've been to have been in Malaysia and Philippines and Korea. So as you can tell, I did my little exploration of Asia while I had the chance. I have not made my way to Europe. So I will encourage students that if you ever get a chance, I know it's really far away from the United States, to go to Asia. The food there is really good. They have lots of options. It's not too expensive. I know as kids, it's pretty easy not to worry about the money aspect, but when you tell your parents it's not expensive, I think that will help you to get to travel somewhere different. And there's a lot of historical areas that you can find in, say, China or Korea with the different temples and the different sites where you can learn more about the country and the history. So I highly recommend if you get a chance to go to China. I know it's a big country, but there's definitely stops within Beijing, Shanghai that would be great for you to learn about the Chinese culture, try some foods, and see some of the really, I would say, monumental things that humans have done in the past.
And you did a study abroad also. right? And so that might be a way to, if you're a student, that could be an opportunity to study abroad and go to another country that you've never been to.
Exactly. You guessed it. Those trips to the different countries in China and Asia, that was while I was doing my study abroad in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And Hong Kong is actually a great place to visit as well, since they speak English and also have, foods that are not too different from Americans, I would say. So it's a good dropping off point, and you can learn to kind of travel around Asia. I would say in Europe, I've heard it's a lot easier because there's trains and transportation so easy between countries. But I would say in Asia, the countries are probably just as interesting, just a little bit different. So study abroad was a great way for me to both meet other individuals of different backgrounds, but also to kind of enjoy traveling at the same time.
Yeah. All right, so we have a couple minutes left, and I'm going to switch us to our rapid fire questions. So the rules here, I'm going to show the question, then I'm going to try to keep 30 seconds as what you get to answer each one. Are
Okay,
you ready?
I think so.
All right, how long does it take to test a lubricant Mars crew in Florida?
So it depends on the test. So I would say from an hour to like 2 weeks.
Interesting. Why did you stop making cosmetics? This was two teams, Space Buckets in Illinois and the Martian Ladies from North Carolina.
So as enticing as making mascara and trying those products was, it got a little bit dirty, and also I wanted a change of career. So I ended up actually looking for a different role, and made a big change from working on cosmetics.
How is it to have a bachelor's in science, Galactic Empire in North Carolina?
So I will say my degree from Carnegie Mellon is gigantic, and I love having that. But also that having my bachelor's in science just means I was interested in chemistry. But you've probably been able to tell that I also really enjoy using my other skills that are more social skills, and talking with clients. And so I was originally going to work on a master's or PhD, decided I was not going to be a lab rat, and decided that I was happy with my bachelor's and have been able to find so many opportunities using that degree.
What is your favorite thing about your job? Hollers, Space Scholars in North Carolina.
So I will say it's been working with different clients and understanding what their needs are, and also being able to travel to different conferences and talk with the clients. Just having a little bit of downtime to see a city while I'm traveling is a great thing about my job.
That's pretty cool. What is the most interesting thing about your job, the Green Leaf in New York?
So I think for me, the most interesting part is working with all these different kind of glassware and gadgets that I have in the lab. So if I'm ever looking for something cool to display, I will just walk in the lab and say, "Hey, what cool glassware or instrument piece can I borrow and look at?" Because we have so many instruments, so many parts of different items that I can play with.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, thanks for chatting with me today. If you have a couple more minutes, I want to show you some of the work that students are doing, and we have a raffle prize.
I would love to.
Okay, so these are the highlights from our mission to Mars. I'm sorry, mission to Moon. I don't even know what mission we're on. Emily, so I see her, she's our IT person. So this is mission to Moon. We have some mission patches for some of the students. And what's cool about this is we asked the kids to come up with a spark. So like, what are they passionate about? And you can probably see some of those sparks there, like basketball and football. Some are really excited about space exploration, drawing. Was there anything that you were passionate about as a kid outside of chemistry?
For me, it was reading. I love to grab any kind of book, especially all the mystery stories, Nancy Drew.
Ooh, I remember reading those. I love it. Okay, so now we're gonna switch to Mission to Mars. And so we have a lot of teams. I think we're at 103 teams that are on this like live Mission to Mars program. And so we just completed Mission 1, which was creating these mission patches, and then they had to do a team hype video. And so I'm gonna play a little clip of some of our top student submissions. Here we go.
Hello, NASA. We are the Astros.
All right. So I just love like the drama in the music, but great job to all the students. We've just loved seeing all your submissions, whether you're on the moon or going to Mars. So to kind of congratulate you and give you a little prize for all your awesome work, every time we do these career chats, we are going to give away a raffle prize for any team that has submitted something in the past couple weeks. So for the next career chat, which is March 2nd, you got to make sure you get your submissions in by that date to be considered. But for today, we are giving away a prize to 2 teams. And we're going to give away some more NASA swag. So a huge pack of NASA vintage stickers and then some astronaut ice cream. So, Yong-Li, maybe they're going to have a party and have all this like fun stuff. So are you ready to see who our winners are?
Of course.
All right. Best of luck to all our teams. Let me get our picker wheel that we have every week. So this is our first team. Ooh, Clinton Central, Apollo 18. Congratulations. All right, let's do me hide them. And team number 2. Faith West Supernova. Congratulations. All right, so let me bring this down. Oh, that was fun. Well, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon with Space Club Career Chats. Do you have any kind of final thoughts or words for our students?
Well, I just want to thank you so much for having me on today. I really enjoyed talking with you guys and just want to hope that you guys keep in the STEM fields. I think it's really important that you take initiative. If I had any advice to whatever you're doing, take the initiative, go in, try and do something to improve yourself. So thank you guys so much for having me today.
Yeah, I love that advice. And I think that's part of the message we try to tell students with these design challenges is perseverance, right? Like just because it doesn't work the first time, just try again. So thank you again for joining us. And for all the Space Club teams out there, keep up the great work, and I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.